successful extraction of information from one's enemies. It has become a subtle and sophisticated specialty, to be carried out with medical and scientific precision. Physical and psychological pain is applied in unbearable yet controlled doses to destroy the subject's will and spirit as the body clings to life, during which the subject is kept trapped in a delicate, shall we say, nightmare existence of terror.
All right, I'm Jay Stone. Welcome to another episode of my show at rockmetaltalk.com. You can also catch me on granitecoastentertainment.com and maximumthreshold.net. So what you heard right there was MARKRADONN, Initiation Through Torment. Next week, I'm going to have the Isolated Antagonist on, and the week after that, I'm going to have Born Into Exile, which is a Jay Stone show band, and after that, Map the Universe. They're going to be on the same show. They're both affiliate with Coldcock. So anyway, I have HANIEL from MARKRADONN on the phone with me right now. So welcome to the show, man. How are you?
Hey, Jay. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate the support.
Yeah, no problem, man. So I've played the band several times. One of your people got in touch with me to get you guys on the show. So, I mean, I found the music interesting pretty much right away myself, but I did get a very good response of about 30 emails or so, you know, asking about the band and whatnot. So tell us about the band and how it all started.
Cool, man. Well, thanks to everybody who sent you the positive feedback. We've been having a really good time lately with internet radio stations and just getting the music out to the listeners and getting some new fans. So I definitely appreciate the support. Well, MARKRADONN is something that's been, I guess it's been in the works for a really long time. I've been working on this project for over 20 years. And the past couple of years, I finally had the opportunity to get with some really good musicians to finally bring this idea of incorporating a lot of this more orchestrated type of sound into more extreme metal. So it really got started when I met up with Tim about 5 years ago. And Jonathan, who's the timpani player, through a music school down here, and we just decided to add some timpani to this song that we were working on, and it turned out pretty good. And it was Final Dying Breath, which is the first song that we worked on, and then we started messing around with French horn, running it through an effects processor, and we recorded it. And about somewhere around 2012, we put a couple of demo songs out. And then we decided to kind of go with a more focused approach on the brass section. So we started recruiting some brass players and getting a little bit more extravagant with the timpani. And the entire idea came from trying to take a lot of the sort of musical ideas that you heard from a band like Nocturnus in the early 90s, and instead of using keyboards, we thought, well, what would happen if we just used the real live instrumentation, and what kind of a sound could we get? And that's kind of like how it started. It pretty much started with Nocturnus and bands like At the Gates and My Dying Bride, and taking a lot of their ideas and seeing what happened if we used live instrumentation. And the lyrical approach is based on a lot of personal experiences and different types of philosophy, but we have this kind of concept that we've been working on, where the first two EPs are kind of like an intro to it. It's called Ceremonial Abnegation, and the very first official part of it is coming out at some point this winter, either December or January, and it's essentially about a story of a guy who just builds up such a tremendous amount of hate for himself and for all of existence that he plans ritual suicide, and he does this whole invocation, and it's sort of evolved into a little bit of a modern day version of Gilgamesh in a weird way. So it's pretty deep stuff. We put a lot of time and a lot of work into this. I mean, it's like having three bands in one, because we have the whole heavy metal aspect of it, which is all the drums, the guitars, the bass, the vocals, and then we have the brass part, which is all the brass instruments and the timpani that we use, and we also do a lot with hand percussion, didgeridoo, which our other guitar player Dennis, he does a lot of that sort of stuff. So it takes us a really long time to finish the music. So what we're going to do is probably wind up releasing the first album in 2 or 3 different parts, because it takes us 3 times as long as anyone else to finish a song, because in some places we have to write 12 brass parts for one team. So it's pretty wild. So, but the response has been great, and it's amazing how metalheads are really, really, really down with the live brass sound, and the more cinematic and symphonic sound seems to be something that a lot of people have been responding really well to, which is, I wasn't really expecting that because I didn't know what to expect. But it's great to see that metalheads are keeping a really open mind about this, and they're taking the time to check it out and support us. We've gotten some great fan support. We've raised some money. We've had some great fans come down and check out our shows, which are always a challenge to put on because we have so many people sometimes that we need extra time to set up. So usually we open up shows just so that we're not impeding on other bands. So it's been great. It's been great. And we're working on new material right now, and the new material is probably even heavier and more aggressive than the stuff that you just played. Cool. So we're happy about that.
Cool. Yeah, I would imagine that everything takes 3 times as long. I mean, just even to book a show to get everybody together would be some type of process. So with all of those members, but I'm glad you touched on Nocturnus, because I'm a big fan of those guys from back in the day. They toured with a friend's band of mine, Suffocation, and when they played on Long Island, I was blown away because they were like the first ones to really ever incorporate keyboards. Are you guys from the same area as them? Because I know the drummer lives in Tampa here, and the rest of the guys were from like Orlando or something. You're from the Orlando side?
Well, yeah, well, to be honest with you, I moved down here from New York about 8 or 9 years ago, and I grew up in the Long Island death metal scene. Like the guys from Internal Bleeding, they've always been really good friends of mine. I used to hang out with Brian Hobby in East Meadow at my friend's house, and Suffocation was one of the bands that we all really admired and really respected, and Pyrexia, and Guy, who I think I just found out that Guy left Suffocation. So Guy was also in Pyrexia, and he was Internal Bleeding. So the Long Island scene is something that is really a big part of the history of my band, because that kind of set the standard for me as far as if you're going to do metal, no matter what it is you do, you have to do it as extreme as possible. You got to really push the envelope. And if you talk to some of the brass players on the squad, they'll tell you that there's some brass parts that are quite easy, and then there are other parts where, there's no place to breathe. And that's a totally different dynamic, because when you're working with brass players, they don't have the same sort of the phrasing is a little bit different than a guitar player, because they have to breathe at some point.